I hope you're having a great day as we come to you from the Citizens Bank studio. The Ricky Matthews Show is, man, we're here to celebrate all of Mississippi for that matter, and the people who are working so hard in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, I want to tell you that I really appreciate the feedback that we continue to get, and today's show is going to be about that. I want to share, it's actually timely, very, very timely quote that came out of my digital history book this morning. And what it was is Harper Lee, who wrote the book To Kill a Mockingbird. She died back in 2016, back in February 2016. Actually, the irony of Harper Lee is when I was publisher of the Press Register and involved in a media company with responsibilities for newspapers across Alabama, through an intermediary, Harper Lee sent me a signed copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. She's actually from Alabama. And it was just at some point, I can't remember exactly how long before she died, but, very, very, very gifted writer she was. But in the book, Scott Finch, who's a protagonist in the book, he said this: "Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing." But let me explain it in case you didn't capture it. Let me say it again first. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing, which is the same thing as saying, we take breathing for granted. We don't love breathing until we can't breathe anymore. Obviously, then we love breathing. Same thing goes for reading. We don't love reading until we can't read anymore. And what's one of the most critical parts of reading is the ability to see. We take our eyesight extraordinarily for granted. If you look across the state of Mississippi, did a little research this morning, somewhere in the upper 90s, nearly 100,000 people in Mississippi are legally blind. But I say legally blind because, many of them, if they go through the right kind of vocational rehabilitation services, they can actually find a way through workforce training to contribute back to society and to have good jobs themselves. And when I have conversations with Chris Howard, who's the executive director for the Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services, we always talk about, all the work they're doing across a number of dimensions to help Mississippians with disabilities find a way to contribute back to society in some positive way. I mean, it's such a great organization, and frankly, I really enjoy my conversations with Chris. Today, I have a new guest, and she's actually the director of Office of Vocational Rehabilitation for the Blind, and she's going to spend the whole show with me. We're going to talk about actually a really important event coming up, a grand opening of a really important center that they're opening. But before we go any further, let me welcome my new friend Dorothy Young to the Ricky Matthews Show. How you doing, Dorothy?
Good morning. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
It's good to see you. And for people on the radio, you should see her. She has a beautiful smile. And she's in a nice, neat office. And I don't know I don't know if she cleaned it up for this show or what, but she seems to be a well-organized person. Where are you sitting right now?
I'm sitting in Madison, Mississippi.
Well, good. That is awesome. Why don't you, before we go too far, we're going to talk about how you got into this business, and we'll talk about what's going to be happening at the Mississippi Emerge Center and all that here shortly. But what do you do exactly?
I work for the citizens of the great state of Mississippi, the ones that are living with blindness and low vision. That's my job every day, is to help our fellow Mississippians who are blind and low vision with independence and employment in communities of their choice.
How many people do you guys work with on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, we work with anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 Mississippians a day.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes,
What's interesting, I think we're all aware that blindness is sort of a part of humanity, is a part of what we have to deal with in Mississippi. I don't think people reflect enough to know that you're working with 2,000 to 3,000, and nearly 100,000 Mississippians are dealing with some form of legal blindness. But the kind of blindness that you deal with is it kind of runs the spectrum from complete blindness to other forms of blindness. Why don't you give us some sense of that?
Well, to really put it in perspective, Mr. Matthews, is we work with, and not only we, every state has a vocational rehabilitation agency for the blind, right? And so what you work with is you work with individuals who have different impairments, such as they're dealing with diabetic retinopathy, they're dealing with macular degeneration, they're dealing with cataracts, they're dealing with glaucoma, and those are your leading causes of blindness. So on our caseloads for the individuals that I just told you that we work with, about 2,000 to 3,000, those are folks that are living with macular degeneration, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, cataracts, retinitis pigmentosa, keratoconus. So you're working with folks that have impairments that lead to blindness. So, and it ranges, you mentioned over 90,000. It ranges because we work with, in this particular program, individuals who are trying to go to work or keep their job. We have another program that we will talk about later on, and I'm glad that you brought up the over 90,000. That's your older blind population, right? And that age ranges from 55 years and older. Those are individuals that are not trying to go to work. They're just trying to stay independent in their homes, and we provide services for those individuals also. So we work with them at 14 years old, all the way to 85 to 90-year-olds.
Yeah, that's outstanding, Dorothy, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for us to focus on the Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services, because the work that you guys are doing on so many different dimensions are trying to give Mississippians as good a quality of life as they possibly can have, whether they don't work or can't work and they're in their homes, as you pointed out, or whether they want to find a job that they can train for and that fits their disability and whatever. You guys are focused on that, and that's the kind of work that has to be done in the trenches in a state, any state for that matter, that focuses on its citizens and who care about its citizens. Hey, listen, this conversation is not about this, and so I'm not trying to draw you in, but just a quick side comment. You can certainly attest to some of what I'm going to say, but as we wrestle with healthcare in our state, which is something I think the legislature is really focused on as it relates to whether we can provide more insurance to more people, whether it could be through Medicaid expansion, or whether it could be the issues of the dwindling healthcare services that are happening in largely rural areas today. 51% of Mississippians live in rural areas. So what we've seen is a degradation of healthcare providers in especially rural areas. I spent a lot of time in the Mississippi Delta myself. What even if we didn't see those things, there's a lot of uninsured people in this state, and a lot of people who don't go get regular medical exams. And by the time something has begun to become a problem for them, like, for example, eyesight, in some cases it's too late. I bet you face people that you think, gosh, if only they would have been diagnosed whenever. They wouldn't be facing these issues today. I hope we can do better proactively in this state to help people who have treatable diseases early in their disease, but when they get to a certain level, it's no longer treatable. You face people like that in your job, don't you?
We do, and I will tell you that with our agency, one of the highest number of individuals that we serve are individuals that come to us and they do not have insurance. Yeah. The doctor, the ophthalmologist, optometrist, they refer them to us because we can help pay for surgeries. So we can pay for what we call physical restoration. We're restoring the vision. So I get referrals from doctors' offices all over the state, and they refer individuals to us that come to them, and they can't pay for that particular service that they need, and they're trying to go to work or they're trying to keep their job, and we provide those services for that individual. A
Well,
lot of times. Mhm.
I'm
Go ahead.
glad. I'm glad we tripped over that. That's
Yeah.
actually a really important point. Um, how often does that happen?
Uh, how does what happen?
How often does it happen that you're in a position? I tell you what, That's actually for people who may be listening who know someone in a situation where they need help. Let's go back to that when we get back on the other side and
Okay.
chat a little bit about that. But then I want to take a step back. I want to get
Okay.
to know you a little bit better, Dorothy. How did you come into this job? Where are you from? I'd like to know a little bit about your history so we can get to know you better as a leader. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Dorothy Young. She's the director of the Office for Vocational Rehabilitation of the Blind. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio, and I have my new friend Dorothy Young, who is the director of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation for the Blind, and we're going to continue the conversation that we ended the first segment with. But before we do that, let me bring your attention to something that's going to be happening. It's actually a grand opening ceremony. It's going to be happening on March the 1st, and it is a real opportunity for the Vocational Rehabilitation for the Blind Training Center for the state to really to make a statement actually about how dedicated they are to developing a quality workforce, even if someone has an impairment. So why don't we talk a little bit about the grand opening and that center, and then we'll come back and pick it up where we left off a few minutes ago.
Okay. So first and foremost, Ricky, I would like to thank Chris Howard, my executive director, who you mentioned in the beginning of the segment. Chris Howard had the vision that if a citizen that needed training, this what we call structured discovery training, that they should not have to leave our state to receive this training. So the grand opening is our agency establishing this structured discovery training center so that our citizens no longer have to leave the state. And this is a type of vocational workforce training that our citizens will be involved in. And so I just want to congratulate him and thank him and the agency for all their work in making sure that our citizens no longer have to leave this state, because we have established this training center that will be located in Long Beach, Mississippi. The name of the training center is Mississippi Emerge. The grand opening is March the 1st at 2:00. And this training center will house up to 10 individuals. They will live in their own apartments, fully independence training for 6 to 9 months. Folks will learn how to live blind and problem solve, as you stated earlier, without vision.
Wow, that is incredible. That is structured discovery. I've never heard that term or that type of training before, but based on your description of it, it sounds quite intense and very immersive.
It is. Structured discovery really is a philosophy, right? And it is an intense training that every student that comes to this training center, what we put them under is what we call learning shades, but they're sleep shades, and they're giving a white long cane. And then they're taught how to navigate life, whether that's in going out to movies, restaurants, college campuses, learning Braille, learning technology, but you learn it being blind.
Wow, that's really incredible. Look, I'm pleased to see that Senator Bryce Williams is going to be a guest speaker there. Of course, as we typically do well, the coast chambers will be involved. Really important ribbon cutting. You have representatives from the mayor of Long Beach going to be there, and several of the members of the staff for the Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services. But the Mississippi Emerge Center at 310 North Cleveland Avenue in Long Beach, grand opening on March the 1st. Excuse me?
And it's going to be centered to Bryce Wiggins. He's going to be our guest speaker.
Yeah.
I want to let the folks know that Long Beach its city is known for a friendly city. Right. And so I will tell you, the mayor, Mayor Charlie, he has been very instrumental in making sure that this center is established there. They're getting ready to put us sidewalks in. They're getting ready to put us a crosswalk in, because part of this training is individuals are going to be out teaching under sleep shades. So I will tell you, Ricky, for the past couple of weeks, the staff, because our staff is located there, they have been walking back and forth to work. We've had a police escort because they're blind and they're out with their canes walking. And so, the community is like, they need help. And they say, we don't need any help. We're walking to our jobs. We're walking to work. So I met with the mayor on Friday. And we had a very good conversation. This is my second meeting with him and his staff, and he's fully on board. The city of Long Beach is fully on board with this. The church that's located right next door to us, the elementary school, they have all just embraced us, and it's going to be a great day for the state of Mississippi.
Wow, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. So it's a level of innovation that before Mississippi wasn't involved with, a level of immersive training about how to live blind, and it's called structured discovery. That's really cool. Hey, listen, so let's shift gears a bit. So let's come back to where we were at the end of the discussion. If somebody knows someone who has an eye situation that could lead to blindness and is not in a position to pay for whatever that treatment or surgery might be, you're saying that there's actually a pool of money available within your organization to help them?
Yes, as long as that individual is trying to go to work, or they have a job and they can't afford to pay for the services that's needed for their eye surgery for them to keep that job. The only thing, and we try to make this process very easy, because when you get the words, you hear the words, you're losing your sight, that's fearful, right? So what happens is the doctor's office refers you, or you can hear this segment here and say, what do I need to do? The only thing that you need to do is call our office, 1-800-443-1000. You tell them that you're needing services from the Office of Vocational Rehab for the Blind, and they're going to refer you to one of my staff members here at the state office. We're going to find out where you live, what county you live in. We have 18 counselors that work all over the state, and we're going to connect you to the nearest counselor that lives closest to you in your county area. That counselor is going to call you, and we have a time frame, 7 to 14 days. You should make contact with that referral, because if you heard the words, you're losing your vision, you need services pretty quick, right? So 7 to 14 days, my counselor will contact you and set up an appointment for you to meet with them in a place that's convenient for you. We try to tell folks we can meet you at the Wynn Job Center. We can meet you at your local library. Any place that's close to you, my counselors can travel to meet you. They would take your application, and we're going to need your eye report from that eye doctor that has told you that you're losing your vision. And then we're going to read that eye report and see what recommendations that doctor has made for you. A lot of times the doctors may say the person needs cataract surgery. We call the doctor office, and as long as they accept vocational rehab fees, and majority of the doctor's offices in the state does, I work with them all over the state, then we will make you eligible for services. You have to tell the counselor where you're going to be working at, what type of job, because every dime that we spend on a client has to be for that client to go to work. So as long as that individual is trying to go to work, we can help them and we can pay for those services. Now, if the person just states they're not going to work and they're needing these services, we have a program that's that older blind program, but you got to be 55 years old to meet that federal guideline for us to help you, right? And so we can help you in that program. We don't pay for a lot of surgeries in that older blind program, but what we do pay for is we pay for low vision aids, for a CCTV. That's a handheld magnifier that older person, we teach you how to put that on that whatever you're trying to read. We come out, we high mark your ovens, your microwaves. We teach you how to read your mail. So there are all types of services that person can receive from our agency.
Wow, that's incredible. That's it's so good to hear all of that. And clearly, if you're serving 2,000 to 3,000 people a day, there's a lot of people who are coming to you for help in so many different kinds of ways. And I think that's terrific, whether it's to get workforce training to learn how to live with their disability, or whether it's they're older and they just need to learn to live and have some quality of life. You guys are really focused on doing that. And it's not just the blind, it's a wide range of disabilities that these services are available. And Chris does a great job of communicating that. But then again, when I talk to people like you, Dorothy, you're an extension of that. And, there's always a passion for helping people with disabilities be able to find happiness in whatever their situation might be. And that's really important to you guys, isn't it?
It is. And right now, we're serving 1,219 just with the vocational rehab portion of it. Out of that 1,219 that we're serving, 102 have already gone back to work.
Wow, good.
So that's 102 Mississippians that are now taxpayers. And the average hourly wage of that 102 is $19.65.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have over 60 that's in college training. Mm-hmm.
Hey, so you heard the quote that I read from To Kill a Mockingbird. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing. But until I would lose it, I never loved to read. When you talk to, in fact, I tell you what, we'll do this on the other side, but I'd like to get your reaction to that. People you come in contact with, they have a newfound appreciation for just living life and trying to figure out how to do it. It's something they might have taken for granted before. We'll continue our conversation when we come back on the other side with Dorothy Young from the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation for the Blind. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. And again, I'm reminded when I'm having this conversation with Dorothy Young, who's the director of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation for the Blind. I'm reminded of what it takes when I do this show, what it takes to build a great community. And it means service in so many different ways. I mean, United Way has their role, and the chambers have their role, and Red Cross has its role, and I could go on and on. There's so many. The Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College has the role that it plays, and there's so much adaptation that's going on to help people with workforce training. The Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services has its role and has so many people working in the trenches. I heard you mention about the counselors that are strategically located all across the state that can work with people. But, when you start to sort of break it all down, there's so many different ways to help someone find quality of life. And that quote that I shared, at the beginning of the show before we ended the last segment, until I feared I would lose it, I never loved reading. But you face people every day who might have lost it. And it's something we take for granted, isn't it, Dorothy?
It is. And, the whole, and I don't know what made you this morning use that quote, right? I know because we're dealing with vision and training of individuals. But this whole training, Ricky, is just about that quote. We want folks to understand just because you're losing your vision does not stop you from living the life that you choose to live. And we do that by providing structured discovery training that, we're getting ready to have this grand opening for.
Yeah.
A lot of folks think, I can't do this anymore because I'm losing my vision. I can't go to the grocery store on my own. I can't live on my own. I can't go back to work. This training teaches them how to live blind each and every day from 6 to 9 months. And it's all about your confidence, right? Your self-confidence and the belief in yourself that, yes, I'm going to be okay when I lose my vision, or if I lose my vision, because I can do this on my own, because I've received what we call structured and proper training.
Yeah, I can tell, Dorothy, that you have passion about what you're doing. So, and I can tell you care. Where did that come from? Has that always been there? Where did you decide you're going to have a career that's about serving others?
Well, it comes from how I was raised. You asked earlier about where I was from, and I try to keep this off about me. And I just told my staff this at 9:30. This training we establishing this center is not about us, you all. This is about our clients here in Mississippi, helping them emerge every day. Right. So I come from a small town, West Mississippi. Some folks probably have never heard of West Holmes County. And so both of my parents have been married over 50 years. My daddy is a county supervisor there. But every morning before we would leave to go to school, my mother would pray for us. And she would always tell us, she said, no matter how people treat you, you're only responsible for what you do for others and how you treat others. And so that was embarked on us every morning when we got up to go to school. And both of my parents worked, and they always instill in us, if anything, no one owes you anything in life. Anything that you get out of life, you got to work for it. If you put God first, anything is possible. Without God, nothing is possible. And this training center is a testament of working together with good people in Mississippi. And when I introduce myself, Ricky, all over this country at different venues that we had, I said, I'm from the great state of Mississippi. I said, because we work together in Mississippi, from Senator Bryce Wiggins to our governor, first lady, who backed this center, helping me get it established, through the Speaker of the House, Jason White, who wants to make sure that every person who wants to stay in our state have a good living wage. This is what this training center does, working with all of those folks and my executive director, the counselors, so many other people. It just shows us that together we can be the best that we can be and give others the best when we're working together.
So what I love about your story is I say this a lot on the show, and that is that when those of us who have leadership roles in the state, who are trying to live by example, when we leave the state, we have a responsibility to share with people who have an image of Mississippi. Look, some of that is well-deserved. Don't get me wrong about this.
Right.
But the fact is we've made tremendous progress, and there's a lot of working together around issues that we have where we can find common ground. And so the opportunity when we leave to talk about that and help people see, take all the division and all that other polarization aside for a second, and let's look at what's in the heart and minds of Mississippians. And let me demonstrate to you through what I'm experiencing and what I'm involved in, that and what we do when we do that, Dorothy, is we dispel myths about Mississippi.
That's right.
And I have in the past referred to that as a burden we carry, because the reputation is in some cases was well earned, but as it stands today, there's so much progress being made. And it's a burden for us to present the actual Mississippi so we can dispel those myths.
That's
and
right.
The way you talked about it is beautiful. Incidentally, I know West Mississippi. I lease a farm in Chula, Mississippi.
Okay.
And spent a lot of time in that part of the country. And, I love it there. I've driven through West many times. Kind of hills part of Mississippi. It's kind of pretty in October when the leaves are turning and into November. It's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, my daddy says it's the best place to live.
I don't blame him. I can see that clearly. We love it up there. We spend as much time. At least 3 different farms in Mississippi, and one is in Holmes County, and then one's up in Mentor City, and then the others down right outside Greenwood. But I spent a lot of time in that part of the country, and I love the people there, and go to Big Daddy's in Shula all the time to have some soul food. I don't know if you're familiar with Big Daddy, but special place to eat. But people embrace you, and it's just it's a lovely place to be. But a great place to go and learn about what's in the heart and soul of Mississippi, and that's for sure. We see that after a disaster like Hurricane Katrina, or after the tornado goes to the lower Delta, all political definitions and all that stuff sort of fall to the wayside. It doesn't matter where you came from or who you love or what the situation is. The reality is you need help. And people tend to come together in these situations. And that's essentially what you're doing. That's what you're doing with your rehabilitation efforts around the blind, is coming together to help people find quality of life. And I think that's beautiful. And I can see it. I can see it in what you're doing.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, we're representing the great state of Mississippi. I've had other colleagues across the country that say, Dorothy, once the center is open, we would like to send clients there because it's only like 3 or 4 structured discovery centers in the country.
Wow.
So Mississippi is leading the pack once again, dispelling any thoughts or conceptions that folks have about our great state. We're leading the pack again, where we have come together and established this structured discovery training center that will not only benefit Mississippians, it's going to benefit other Americans across the country also.
Wow, that's cool. So this is the first. Do you guys plan more?
No, we're not planning anymore. We have 2 training centers in the state for individuals who are blind and low vision. One is our first center is located on the Addie McBride Center. That's located on the campus of the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And that center was established after a very relentless lady. Her name was Adeline Wiseman. And get this, Ricky, because I know you do a lot of research. Look her up.
Okay.
Adeline Wiseman took a pay cut to help other folks in Mississippi who was living with blindness and low vision. She took a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you how people in Mississippi, as you say, help one another when we come together. And this center was established on her work.
Yeah.
And that's the first training center. And that training center has a residential. I mean, we have dorms that's built in at that center that individuals come from all over the state to get that type of training, and they live in the dorms for 3, 6, 9 months. We meet the person right where they are. And you mentioned earlier blindness, legal blind, low vision. Well, what happens is if someone is born blind, that's all they know, Ricky, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so you meet them right where they are when they come to you for vocational rehab help. So they may not need to know how to make a bed or how to go to school or college on their own, because that's how they've been living their life is blind. But when you're losing your vision or you have just lost your vision, that's a different type of training that you would need, right? So you will need to learn how to make a bed on your own. You will need to learn how to dress yourself, how to match your clothes blind when you're losing your sight. So I tell people the training varies, but that's the first training center, the Addie McBride Center. It's been here over 50 years, and it serves about 152 clients a year.
Mm-hmm.
152. So
hey, listen,
training center. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was on the board of directors for Goodwill Industries of South Mississippi for like 10 years, and I was the chairman for 2 or 3 years, many years ago. But some of the people that I would come in contact with were blind. They were some of the kindest people I know. Listen, It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, Dorothy Young. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet. We'll see you after this break.
All righty.